What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be breaking down the best and worst performances in college football over this past week. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys know how to use YouTube. This is something I'm doing every single week, along with a multitude of other series, so stay tuned for those or enjoy the ones I've already had up. So let's get right into this, starting out with our stars of the week, the stock up guys. Starting out with Josiah Stewart. He was my number 8 edge rusher coming into the year, someone who I saw flash a lot, and I didn't really expect for him to be putting on a performance like this, but he had 8 pressures and 5 defensive stops, garnering him a 95 defensive grade versus USC. He was simply unstoppable. People trying to crap on me for liking Miller Moss. I mean, like, there's some dudes who definitely put the pressure on, and Josiah Stewart was one of them. This dude is fantastic and, deserves all the respect in the world. He genuinely does deserve to be a day 2 pick. That's easy to say, but then again, once you're in practice, once you're rolling, there's certainly some issues there. But I do think the edge rusher class has enough room to shift around to where I feel actually quite comfortable with the idea of him being a day 2 pick. Whether you put him in Fangio's system, whether you send him to LA even, I think he's going to be a really, really big impact player. The fact is, it's a very well-rounded game. 5 defensive stops. That's not just with pass rush. That's also being able to be an impact in the run game as well. So big fan of Josiah Stewart and how well he performed. Granted, USC is not the offensive line powerhouse of the world, but it's super crucial for him to have played that well-rounded of a game. Trey Rucker is another player I wanted to highlight. He ended up having only 1 target his way this week, ended up not allowing that reception, and in fact ended up getting 2 interceptions. That's awesome. But on top of that, he had 6 defensive stops. That is an absolutely dynamite performance from Oklahoma State's defensive back. I mean, I think that's just on its own incredible. If you look at it before the 6 stops, you allow no yards, no receptions, and still get 2 picks. That's really, really good range, good defense right there, good IQ, basically good on him. But the defensive stops as well, talking about well-rounded game, you are making an impact every single play based on the fact that they at least have to factor you in, and he did an excellent job. Making another appearance onto this list, we got Caleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa. This dude's an absolute baller. 21 carries, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns, 10 missed tackles forced. I mean, we're going to see Cade McNamara at the end of the video because he's going to be on the stock down list, even though, I say stock down. The guy doesn't have stock to begin with, but shitty performance. And Caleb Johnson is the only reason Iowa is competitive. The only reason on offense that they can actually win a game. So shout out to this dude. He's an absolute MVP. A team like the Steelers, obviously Arthur Smith's system, I would absolutely adore to bring this guy into house and see what he can do for us. So fantastic job. It's literally, I think, his 3rd week in a row of being absolutely dominant and being the focal point of the entire offense. Joshua Josephs. There's an S after the Joseph part. Edge rusher out of Tennessee is the final star of the week. Yes, I'd cap it at 4, but this guy is going to be technically, he only played 30 reps, but listen to the stat line. So he had 3 defensive stops, 3 pressures on 30 reps. First off, that's really solid, but look at how he graded out. 94 defensive grade. That's great. I mean, to be fair, Josiah Stewart got 95. 99. Over a 99 run defense grade. This guy made an impact on almost every down that he was in. He might not have gotten the credits in terms of stops, but this guy was unstoppable. Fantastic performance. I mean, he's still relatively young. I think he's a true junior. He's only played 3 years, or this is his 3rd year playing. So he hasn't really amassed enough experience to be really draft eligible. I think he will be returning to school. However, I think he's definitely someone to mention in that list. He did a fantastic job this week and deservedly is here at the 4th star of the week. Now we're going to talk about some of the other guys who got stock up. And no, this is not the only guy. These are not the only guys who performed that well this week. I have well over 60 guys who performed fantastic this week. And the thing is, I had 22 guys I was dying to put on this list, and I could only put 14. You might say, oh, you should extend it, but at the end of the day, this has so much more meaning because we're talking about the best players of the week, right? And to be fair, there's a lot of guys who deserve a lot of credit. The Ohio State running backs, killed me not to put him on here. Those guys did phenomenally well, along with a multitude of other players. So give them shout outs in the comment section below. It boosts the algorithm, more importantly. But most importantly, they get the credit they deserve, because there were a lot of guys who I could not include on this. But David Bailey starting out, 95 defensive grade. Again, that seems to be a really key one. 93 pass rush grade, as well as 4 pressures. David's somebody who I think I included him in my original edge rusher video. He's pretty much a pure edge rusher. He's a very interesting style of linebacker edge rusher there for Stanford. He's more of a DPR than anything, but I mean, to be fair, that's exactly what this stat line ended up suggesting. Alonzo Barnett III, quarterback out of James Madison. Who would have guessed that they would have beaten UNC with an offensive point total of 70? Not offensive, but because I think defensively they got like a pick 6 or something. But regardless, they beat UNC 70-50. That's fantastic. Fantastic. And he had 22 completions for 381 yards and 5 touchdowns. Only 2 of those were big-time throws, but one of those big-time throws was absolutely beautiful. On top of that, though, he rushed 11 times for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is a fantastic performance. Easily could have put him as a star of the week. However, this is pretty much a list of the stars of the week. Continuing on, you got Eric Gentry there, linebacker at USC, 92 run defense grade, but very well balanced. 4 pressures, 4 defensive stops versus Michigan. Michigan only had like 36 passing yards, so got to keep that in mind as well. It was they did not have a great day. Their defense bailed them the fuck out. Garrett Nussmeier, the Nuss Bus, is next. Now, I do think he should have gotten credited with the turnover-worthy play, but it is what it is. Even with that, he probably would have still been in contention for this list, would have been a winner regardless. But 32 completions, 352 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 2 big-time throws, 0 turnover-worthy plays. Again, maybe you could argue that there should have been an extra turnover-worthy play in there, but who gives a shit? Fantastic performance all around. I mean, they really did have a really good grasp on the game. So he was a massive contributor. Good job for the Nuss Bus. Then we got Quindarius Jones. And you might say, I've never seen that name before. You know what? Probably for good reason. This guy's only played 18 reps this past game. So you're like, Alex, why the hell is he even on this list? 18 reps. He had 3 pass breakups. But not only that, if I'm not mistaken, Florida State only got 3 pass breakups the whole game. So he's the exact reason why. 18 coverage reps, 3 pass breakups, and the only 3 FSU got that entire game. Fantastic performance. I don't know if that's going to translate to anything because I haven't watched an all 22, but I also saw Azariah Thomas as the 3rd highest graded defender on Florida State. So it looks like the secondary did their job versus Cal, even though the offense did not. Then we got Ariante Ursery. Damn, I thought I had Thaddeus Dixon still in here. We do. Okay, cool. I totally forgot that I ended up moving his ass. But making sure I did not forget anybody else. No, I did not. So Ariante Ursery. Talk about Thaddeus Dixon in a second. He's somebody who I love on the move. Great run blocker. And, this week, I thought it was super critical to see how he performs as a pass blocker. 0 pressures. 89 pass blocking grade. That is fantastic. That is awesome. I'm super stoked for Ariante. I'm going to see if it is translatable 89 pass blocking grade, but he is not a cornerback, by the way. He is a left tackle. I realized that when I ended up talking about Thaddeus Dixon, it was because that was the order it was supposed to be in. I digress. So regardless, Ariante Ursery, left tackle, Minnesota, I thought he's just doing a fantastic job. It really was the week to shine out, and he did. James Pierce is next, edge rusher out of Tennessee. Already highlighted his teammate who did fantastic earlier, but technically a stat line that might be even better. 6 pressures, 1 defensive stop, but also a 92 coverage grade. So pass rush, coverage, and then a little bit of some run defense there as well. Fantastic job by James Pierce. Harold Fannin is next. He's been consistently on this list. But, his team had 250 passing yards. He had 8 receptions, 145 yards, and a touchdown of it. So over 50%. This dude's been fantastic. After the catch, there's not many tight ends that are better. He is graded out as a fringe starter for me in the NFL, which is a big, big, big win. Because tight ends, it's hard to grade really well for me. But continuing on, we got Thaddeus Dixon. He's back. He was on the list last week. Is 5 targets, 0 receptions. So 0 yards, 2 pass breakups. That's fantastic. This dude's been locked down back-to-back weeks versus Washington State. He was a big winner for me. Probably could have been up there into the stars of the week of last week as well. And technically, this is far from being out of contention for being a star of the week. So good job for him as well. And then last but not least of the stars, we got Steve Linton, former Texas Tech guy at Baylor now. 4 defensive stops, 9 pressures. Fantastic. Obviously, Colorado won through 2 pretty fluky plays at the end of half as well as at the end of the game. So, he was super duper close for being one of the key reasons why Baylor was able to pull off the upset. But let's go into the stock down. We got Anthony Belton here. It's not necessarily his pure play. He allowed 2 pressures, had a 39 blocking grade, so not great. But he got ejected for spitting on a player. I was watching that game, and it's just like, dude, if you're getting your ass kicked, at the very minimum, go out with class. Like, don't be a bitch about it. Like, sorry for the language, like, excuse my French, but you don't have to drop your morals or your standards because you're grouchy. I mean, like, if you're really that pissed off, put it out in terms of power on the field. Don't put it out in terms of spitting on somebody. Like, how stupid are you? And I love Belton. Belton was like my tackle 6 coming into the year. So I am more than biased to just try to put as much love on Belton as possible. But being an absolute dumbass because you can't control your emotions, you're a grown-ass man. You're not a crybaby. So I hate when people spit on other people. Like, that's something in the NFL as well. Like, especially when even Al-Shaair throwing like a dirty-ass punch. Like, you're grown-ass men. Act like it. For the love of God, you're going to be paid millions of dollars to act like crybabies. That's just a thing for me. Obviously, there's plenty of instances that I'm not even naming, but it's far from Belton exclusive. Just this week, unbelievable. You're getting your ass kicked. At least try to have a good performance. Like, don't be a bitch about it. But regardless, he's still like a blocker I totally believe in terms of kicking into a guard. We'll see about it, but that rubbed me the really wrong way this week. Now we're going to talk about the guys who are stocked down. I've always thought about switching it to the other way around, but, sometimes it's fun to dunk on some players. Josh Fryer, starting out, he could have been the dud of the week. He was there. He technically performed much worse than Belton. 2 pressures allowed, if I'm not mistaken. But the big kick in the balls is a 29 pass blocking grade versus Marshall. Like, really? We all know you're ass, but at least try to cover it up. That's embarrassing. David Van versus Clemson, 39 defensive grade, only 1 pressure. It's kind of key for him to have kind of had a big game there. He's the big piece there for NC State at the moment. Donovan Smith ended up, I think, getting hurt, but he ended up having a fumble, 11 completions, 73 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. He did have 1 big-time throw and 0 turnover-worthy plays, I believe, but, at the end of the day, you got to produce, even if you do get hurt early on. It's just not a great stat line for somebody who, I know some people had him as high as QB2. Kyron Drones, one of the most funny safeties you'll ever see. The dude threw it straight back. So, he pretty much foreshadowed probably what Will Levis is doing today. But 13 completions, 137 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, 0 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play. Simply put, another guy who could have easily been dud of the week. He's just not developed the way I wanted him to. The processor was an issue for me preseason, and it's continuing to look like that's the case. RJ Oben is next. He's not a center out of Notre Dame. He is an edge rusher out of Notre Dame. I guess I flipped him and Jonah Monheim, but we'll talk about both of them combined. How about that? Nah, we could actually update the graphics. So we'll go Jonah Monheim first over RJ Oben. He allowed 4 pressures and a 33 pass blocking grade this past week. Ended up being one of the key guys who is part of the lowlights, or I guess the highlights of Mason Graham getting absolutely thrown to the ground right off the snap. So obviously that's not something that is acceptable. It's not something that will get you drafted. That's something that will get your ass put in the UFL. You cannot get chucked like that right off the snap. Mason Graham is a very good defensive interior. But if you're actually going to play in the NFL, there are a lot better defensive interiors than even Mason Graham. So if you cannot hold up, you're not going to hold up. So I have a big concern because you guys know I love Jonah. He was a top 50 player for me. And my big concern is anchor. I never thought that he would actually get thrown. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was pretty damn bad, but I didn't know it was to that degree. RJ Oben, though, going back to him, 0 pressures versus Miami, Ohio is just a disgrace. They won, so cool. But this guy's been unbelievably unproductive. I could say a lot about the majority of the transfers to Notre Dame, except Bo Collins. He's been really reliable. But, yeah, really disappointing. Very disappointing. Continuing on, we have Jalen Conyers. It was his return, so to speak, to play Arizona State there at Texas Tech. 2 targets, 0 receptions. I don't get it. I don't. This is someone who has unbelievable untapped potential. Great talent. He'll do better in whatever next league he's in. I think he should go to the UFL at this point and then just end up balling out. It's going to be better than going to college and then praying to God that you're a part of an air raid scheme. It's ridiculous at this point. But Jalen Conyers, it just sucks because it was exciting to see him go and face his former team. Sebastian Castro making this list, I think, again. He ended up allowing 2 touchdowns, 6 receptions, 8 yards, 31 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have a pass breakup, but you got to be better than that. You got to be a lot more consistent than that, especially for the talent level that he has. He's been very, very, very unproductive. K. McNamara, I mentioned him earlier, 11 completions, 62 yards. Your running back had one less missed tackle forced than you had throws in the game. Absolute bullshit. This guy should be benched. This guy should get kicked out. Like, straight up, find a quarterback, Iowa. How hard is it? Like, since what? CJ Beathard? You guys have not had anybody? Like, how hard is it to find somebody who could throw the ball more than 2 yards? His average attempt, if I'm not mistaken, his average depth of target was like 3.3 yards. Like, the hell is that, man? Regardless, yeah, just an absolute disgrace of a college quarterback. Then you got Woody Washington, 4 targets, 3 receptions, 87 yards, and a 31 coverage grade. So ending on a little bit of a less down note. But, obviously, these guys all have chances to bounce back. I hope they all do. Not many of them, I think, will. But, that's the nature of the game. And the NFL is not for anybody. It's for very, very, very special individuals. And that's why it's called Not For Long. But I love you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you on the far side.